Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. I'm Kate Clarity, and today I'm going to talk to you about why I decided to come out as a conservative artist in 2020. I think you're going to find a lot of my reasons very compelling, or at least interesting. So if you want to stick around more and hear more from me, I do songs and poems and commentary. Please do subscribe below, and I'm also going to be sharing a song at the end, so stay tuned for that. And got a really exciting bit of news to share as well, so stay tuned. So to start off, what I want to be very clear about is that I never wanted to be political. And I always have so much to say, so I'm going to try to curtail things today and put them into different videos. But as an artist, I'll just say that the role of the artist is to unite through truth seeking. I think it's one very real way of expressing the role of the artist. And when I say truth seeking, that's a very important clarification, because the artist tends to see a lot of nuance in the world, and it's the striving that has that meaning. So as long as someone doesn't bind themselves to an ideology, there's going to be this beautiful stretching to truth that almost anyone can find some resonance in if it's done from an honest place. Even if you would sort of disagree with the thesis that's kind of inherent in a piece, you can still resonate with it on the level of experience. And that's what beautiful art does, is it unites those listeners into something real. So I didn't want to be political. And I remember even having conversations precisely about that with people a few years back, about how I wanted to just keep my convictions as the foundation. I've never hidden them. They're there. I'm a Catholic. I'm a conservative. That's not something I've ever been ashamed of. And if you look in my work, you will see that. But I have reasons now at this point. I felt like things got to a bit of a fever pitch where I just had to say who I was and what my starting point was. So I'm going to get into those reasons now. I do want to be clear that just because I'm conservative doesn't mean you need to listen to this or to enjoy my work. In fact, most of the artists I listen to do not share my convictions, and I am very edified by their work. Much of it is older because increasingly more artistic work is ideological in a way that is not resonant for anybody almost, except from an ideological standpoint. But I love people to stick around if they are open-hearted people who love what I offer. Obviously, if someone is going to be knit to a very ideological view of the world that's very flat and radical, and increasingly so, and they're not open to reason or other perspectives, they won't enjoy being here. So that's fine. So my reasons for stating clearly via social media and through essays I've submitted and published is that everything has become politicized. We live in a world where everything has become sort of militaristic in its ideology in most of the prominent channels, and particularly in the arts. And it's always been that way. I knew growing up even. I remember being perceptive of that even when I was young. I knew that as if I wanted to go into entertainment, I was going to have to walk a tightrope, and that I would have to be willing to sort of never compromise my convictions, but be willing to work with people that would largely reject a lot of the things I care about, and to sort of make peace with that because I cared about being a storyteller. So it's always been the case, but it's increased quite radically in recent years, even in the last couple of years in a particular way. And so it just reached a point where I felt that I couldn't not say something, because increasingly more, there's this militaristic demand for you not to just reasonably agree with certain things people say, but to actually follow a very specific script that is ever changing. And you are expected to lockstep into that without having time to think about it or its ramifications. And that if you don't, you're a social outcast. And that's very dangerous and very, very distasteful to me. And it's very damaging to society for that to function that way. So for me, I decided that I had to step out and say, this is who I am, and sort of beat whatever criticisms might come to my way from various people. Just beat them to the punchline and say, yes, these are my convictions. I have a different starting point, and I care about different things, and I view things differently. And it doesn't make me a bad person because I want to take time to reflect on how I see the world and not just follow some new trend on social media. So in the realm of the arts, this is particularly the case. It'll be for another video where I talk about exactly why I think artists in particular tend to lean left. That's a very common observation. Obviously not universal. But the artistic world is dominated by a left-leaning ideology, or at least left-leaning convictions or principles, because I see two reasons. The main reason is that artists tend to have a very empathetic way of relating to the world, and a lot of left-leaning policies appeal to that. But the other reason is that at some point, probably because of that tendency via temperament, actually something Jordan Peterson talks about that's fascinating is the tendency towards political spectrums based on temperament. It's very interesting. But the other reason is that because of that perhaps starting tendency, you have a lot of people perhaps like me, but they feel they have to hide out. And that's not made up. That's not someone being paranoid. I've definitely said no to many opportunities because I knew it wouldn't work out, because I wouldn't be able to be myself with integrity. And that's something I hear constantly. There are people I know who work successfully, and they have to be very careful with every single word they say, and sort of just slide into whatever is the norm there. And we just understand that that's the only way you can do it. And everybody has their limit as to when it crosses into dishonesty, when they start feeling like it's eating at their being to hide those convictions. That'll be more for another day, but that's the main reason. Was I just felt that there was less and less room. That threshold was becoming harder and harder to sustain, and the tightrope was getting thinner. And I just thought, I'd rather just be honest about who I am and let the chips fall. Let those who either agree with me be heartened by it and excited about someone who shares their convictions and wants to do beautiful, honest art from that perspective. Or, well, I guess, and also to be frank with people who still have an open heart, even if they do disagree with me, that they can see that I have a valuable perspective that they maybe disagree with, but that from that plane of experience that I still have something to give and that they want to be a part of. So that was where I felt comfortable, and that's why I felt compelled to. So the second reason is related, but I needed freedom to share the songs that were honestly coming to me. I don't write songs from an ideological standpoint. I don't have an agenda when I write a song. I write about things I care about, and I write about them as honestly as I can. And I write about them representing what I know to be true as much as possible. So because I have had very deep experience, for example, with friends and extended family who have experienced the ravages of communism, where 100 million people have died brutally under these systems, that's not something I can be silent about in my songs. But I felt that I wasn't free to share that perspective in my songs because I just felt confined by the expectations of my field. And no one would consider it political if I wrote a song about the Jews in the Nazi concentration camps. And I have written songs. First of all, I have hundreds of songs. It's a complicating factor, but I've written songs about things that people would think are left-leaning, but they're not. They're just honest stories, things I care about, and I will share those in time. But for me, the ravages of communism was something I was haunted by. I knew personal stories. I have done extensive reading, and I know about these systems and the horrors of them. So I wanted to be able to be free to talk about that. And then other things, many other things, obviously. That's just one pertinent example. So I wanted the freedom the interior freedom, which I felt was difficult when I wasn't clear about where my position was, to share those songs. And so I felt that I needed to say, this is my starting point, and therefore that's where these are coming from. I do have these convictions, but for these reasons. And we'll always strive to not have that be ideological or lockstep in a different way, but honest, as much as I can possibly be honest about what I know to be true. The third is related, but to be clear with my audience, to give them the freedom to stay or walk away. And I knew I needed to be clear about what I cared about, and to feel honest in doing that, and to feel free to do that. But the other side of it is that I think a lot of people are always trying to walk this line of keeping their audience and their fans pleased. And as much as, of course, you want to honor your listeners, especially those who have been with you a while, in the end, there's something a bit manipulative about not being honest. And like many things in life, there are seasons. And if someone's really appreciated me for a long time, but now that I'm going to be clear about these things that I actually have always cared about, but I'm just being more upfront about, then they're free. And I'm not even really that bothered by it. I'm sad to see people go, but at the same time, I'm detached. I know more and more that I just have to be honest, and I would like to leave my audience free to choose to stay or to go, no matter where they come from. I'm always happy to have as many people around as want to be here and who benefit from my work, but not under false pretenses. That's what I'd say. Now, the fourth reason and the last reason is that I really felt that it was extremely important that my songs were contextualized properly. And I have a very wonderful mentor who said years ago, never explain your art. And I agree with him. I think that if your art needs explanation, it's not very good art. It needs to speak for itself. That said, I think there's something to be said, especially now, when there's so much editorializing of art from this sort of very annoying and dishonest postmodern lens. I think it's very important to be able to contextualize your songs, because I didn't want anything I had written or shared to be co-opted by something I didn't intend it for. And so this was my way of laying a foundation such that it could be viewed properly. And I know it's a very popular thing, even among many artists, to say it can mean whatever you want it to mean. And I disagree with that. I think that that's a silly approach to art. Every artist that's worth their salt will absolutely say that there's more in your work than you intend when you finish it. That's almost absolutely universal, because artists function from a place of intuition. So we're always saying more than we even realize sometimes. But that's very different than saying it can mean anything. The reality is artists have intentions, or they ought to have intentions. If they don't, it's just sort of a mess. But artists have real intentions for what they want to communicate. And you know that because if you press an artist enough on something and you say, well, I want it to mean X, and it's something they viciously disagree with, they wouldn't stand for that. So everybody has their purpose that they bring. And I think that we've really gotten far from that in our education system. It's actually quite embarrassing to have no integrity about trying to seek that out, about what the intention of the artist was as a starting point. So songs have deliberate meanings, and I think that although a lot of artists want to coddle their fans and say, oh yeah, it can mean whatever you want it to mean because that's marketable, I don't think that's the right strategy for an artist. I think it's better to have your songs be contextualized and to trust your fans to be intelligent enough to seek out your meaning and to honor that meaning. So that's why I felt that it was necessary for me to lay that contextualized groundwork, because I didn't want my songs misunderstood in a radical way that maybe could be avoided. But that said, I do try to avoid explaining them too much, and I think that's a wise thing for an artist to take on. So those are my 4 main reasons why I decided to tell you all I was a conservative in this time. It feels really radical and rebellious. It's crazy. But I just want to say again that anyone's welcome here, as long as you're a person of goodwill and you want to be civil and you're not just in a narrow, boxed-in mode with the world. I'm happy to have you. But especially to the conservatives out there, I just want to say there are talented people who hold your convictions, and we want to share those things and the wisdom and the magnanimity and the generosity and the humanity and the history that a conservative ethos brings to the table. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm being clear about it. And I'm so happy to be doing this. I feel very peaceful and I'm excited for this new chapter with you. So I'm going to end with a song here, and to just illustrate again what I said about what I think a conservative artist brings to the table, and to illustrate what I mean by it, which isn't just writing a slogan on my dress or something. I think that's Joy Villa. That's not what I mean by conservative artist. The emphasis is on artist, but I wanted to be able to showcase that for you. So this is a song of mine called Winter Lullaby, and it's about my home, Saskatchewan. That's where I'm from, and it's about motherhood, and it's about history, and it's about hard work, and it's about suffering, and it's about beauty. And I think that is what the honest artist brings. But I think in our times, a conservative ethos, if it's gotten to in an honest way, actually brings about this kind of work. So just before I start though, I do want you to look in my description below, because I said I would share some news with you. I am launching my subscription website in January, and it's going to be a really exciting thing. I'm going to be sending out monthly exclusive content to people who both just love my work and want to hear things at a great quality and to get exclusive content, but also people who want to be a part of building a movement of conservative artists like me, who see value in the unique voice that the conservative brings to the table from that perspective of reality and magnanimity and beauty and humanity. And so I would love for you to be a part of it. It's a huge deal right now because we're setting things up and you're going to be sort of the guinea pigs as we get things going. So it's super discounted. I think, I don't know the percentage, but it's way, way, way under what we're going to be starting to charge in January. And that will only go up as we sort of perfect the model. So if you want to be a part of that, please do check out the description and join me. Join me for this important time in history. Here's Winter Lullaby. Winter's long, my dear. The snow's just pile and pile. Winter's long, my dear. So sleep and sleep a while. A warm little cottage in the wide stretching light holds a babe and a mother in the thickness of night. Mama holds her little one safe, and every night she sings. Winter's long, my dear. The snow's just pile and pile. Winter's long, my dear. So sleep and sleep a while. The
at 8:30 and won't stay long past 4. At the close of each short solemn day, she holds her babe and sings. Winter's long, my dear, the snow's just pile and pile. Winter's long, my dear, so sleep and sleep a while. The night wind whistles days gone by, long covered in the snow. All else so still waits patiently for spring while mama sings. Winter's long, my dear, the snow's just pile and pile. Winter's long, my dear, so sleep and sleep a while. Winter's long, my dear, the snow's just pile and pile. Winter's long, my dear, so sleep and sleep a while.
Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe and do check out that link below, and I can't wait to see you next time. Take care. Bye.